Hello, everybody. It's Mike and Liam from the Father and Son podcast, and we are starting a new series called Talking Chargers on our channel, where every week we're going to break down and talk about the Chargers as we are Chargers fans. And we're happy to have all of you here. And we're basically, this is going to be the first episode of our new series, and we're going to basically break down the game against the Dolphins, and we're going to look ahead to the game this weekend against the Titans.
Super excited for this.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us.
We get to guilt-free, because on our other channel we try to be unbiased.
Yeah.
So this is a guilt-free opportunity for us to share our thoughts on the Chargers, and hopefully for you guys to share yours as well.
Yeah, we get to be really, really biased, and we get to talk about our team. We get to talk about the Chargers, so we're really excited. So basically how we're going to do this, we're going to go through every aspect of the Dolphins game. We're going to talk about the offense first, then special teams, then defense. We're going to run through it all and give our take and our analysis on it. So we're going to start
with the big O.
Yep, starting with the offense. So first week with Kellen Moore's new offense. The run game looked really good. I was surprised. Wow. Yeah, I was so surprised. For the longest time, it feels like we've struggled in the run.
Yeah, and our running backs all looked really good, and the O-line looked fantastic blocking for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Even the tight ends looked good blocking for him. So
yeah, I was super surprised that our running game was like kind of the highlight of this game. The offensive line looked really good. The running backs obviously looked really good. I was kind of surprised at how good Josh Kelly looked.
He looked fantastic.
Yeah, Josh Kelly looked really good. Austin Eckler, obviously, same old Austin Eckler. He, looked great. The numbers here for those two guys, we got Austin Eckler with 16 carries for 117 yards and a touchdown. And Josh Kelly with 16 carries as well for 91 yards and a touchdown as well.
Great game for him.
Yeah, so super impressed with the running backs and kind of a bright spot in a not so bright game for us, but
I thought the offense is pretty good though. I mean, speaking about the offense, Slater looked like a rock star.
Yeah, the offensive line looked really, really good for most of the game, apart from the very last sequence, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, I would say the offense in general was kind of the bright spot of this game, the running game in particular. Justin Herbert had a pretty good game. Many would say it's probably not his best game, but I think he was fine for, the first game of the season. I'm sure they're all rusty.
Yeah.
Kind of getting used to the play calling of Kellen Moore.
Well, I think also we're suffering, and this is not just a Chargers thing, but I think it's sort of, we saw this week one with a lot of very good teams. The Bills come to mind as a team that just sort of underperformed. And I really think a lot of that has to do with the fact that most of these starters are not playing in any preseason games. So they come into week one having only done practice, and I think it's this is sort of the downside of those folks not really playing any snaps in preseason games.
Yeah, I completely agree. A lot of quarterbacks, most of the quarterbacks who got paid along with Justin Herbert this offseason fell flat. Yeah. Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, they all kind of stunk it up this week.
Yeah, not good.
We don't expect that to continue, but,
Yeah.
And same for Justin Herbert. Obviously, we expect him to get better as the season goes along. But, so running backs had a good game. Offensive line looked good. Apart from that last series, which I watched back, and I was actually surprised to find out the two plays where we needed to score, and the Dolphins basically got 2 sacks in a row. Yeah. Zion Johnson missed his assignment like twice in a row.
Right.
We love Zion Johnson.
Yeah.
we expect him to bounce back from that. But the offensive line looked great in the running game. I think the passing, pass blocking, pass protecting leaves a little bit to be desired, and I expect that to kind of be shorn up next week.
Well, I also think in that situation, there are sort of known pass situations where the Dolphins could kind of tee up and go after Justin. So,
yeah,
it's always hard to criticize those last plays when they're sort of really struggling. But I'd say the passing game in general didn't look fantastic this game. I think Keenan looked pretty good.
Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, he got his
was
first
basically
touchdown.
No, he didn't.
Oh, I thought he did.
He was like non-existent actually this game.
Really? I thought he had one touchdown.
No. I don't think so. Yeah, like check the statistics. I have here 2 receptions for 9 yards. Yeah, so that's one thing I was really surprised by. So we were kind of all off season. It was being hyped up that we would be throwing it long now, unlike what's his name's the offensive coordinator from last year. I'm blanking right now on his name.
You're doing that on purpose to block him out.
Yeah, I'm blocking him out. I've completely forgotten him. He's in the past. But yeah, it's just like I expect them going forward to throw it deep a lot more. The passing offense. It was interesting.
That's how they hyped it.
Yeah, that's how they hyped it up. But yeah, I expect them to go deep more, and their passing attack was interesting to me. There was a lot of variety. It was cool. I was just a little surprised. Gerald Everett is another guy who surprisingly wasn't really involved this week.
Yeah, that
I expect to be involved more later on. Quentin Johnston wasn't really involved. Darius Davis had a couple snaps, but I don't think anyone really expected him to be heavily involved anyway. No. But Josh Palmer to 3 guys that we kind of expected to be more involved, that we expect to be involved going forward, but a little surprising, but yeah, I mean, I think that the running game really just took over.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why the passing game wasn't.
I mean, when you look at the scoreboard, most games you score, 34 points?
Yeah.
You're gonna walk away with a win.
Yeah.
So it was not the offense that was the problem this week, from my perspective.
Yeah, we're going to definitely not. And we're going to talk about a lot of people calling for Kellen Moore already to be the new head coach of the Chargers. But we'll get into coaching after in a little bit. But
yeah,
we're going to move on to special teams now and talk a little bit about special teams.
Yeah.
Probably short. Will be a short conversation here, but I think special teams looked good. I think they looked good. The punter, he looked really good.
Punting from his freaking half-inch line.
Yeah,
in the end zone.
Yeah, Dicker the kicker. I think he looked good. He made all of his kicks, as far as I know.
The 50-some yarder.
Yeah. And obviously no huge run backs.
No, they're all touchbacks for the most part. So for kickoffs.
Yeah, I think special teams looked good, and people were really impressed with the special teams coordinator last year, and I think he's
Ryan Ficken,
should expect a lot of the same this year. They looked good. Do you have anything to add? That's all.
No, they were solid. Special teams is always good when you're pretty much not talking about them. So I look forward to seeing what Darius can do in the return game. He is dangerous. So when you get a kicker who can't do touchbacks every game,
there was a lot of touchbacks in this game too.
Yeah, on both sides.
Yeah, on both sides. So we didn't really get to see Darius Davis in the return game, but hopefully we get to see some of that magic we saw in the preseason
for sure.
As the season goes on. But we can get to the droopy part of this. new series.
Hate to end on a bummer, but
Well,
it is what it is at this stage.
We're not going to end on this, but yeah, we're going to talk about the defense now. So, what do you want to start with? What positions should we start with, really? We can kind of go by position. You want to do the secondary first?
Yeah, sure. So, from my perspective, honestly, I don't see, while there are defensive players that just didn't play well, I just think it was the polar opposite scheme of what we should have been doing. I mean, last year was other teams used our game against the Dolphins as a blueprint as to how to defend against a very, very powerful offense, and why we totally abandoned a higher percentage of zone is beyond me. Putting, from my perspective, if we're talking about secondary, putting Jackson on an island after having pretty much not played at all in 2 years, with having come back from a major injury, and he's not known for being like some kind of speed demon, was just. I scratch my head. I have no idea what coach was thinking. That makes no sense to me, and I don't know bubkiss about football.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to consider, like, I just don't understand why he was even in the position he was in. You know what I mean? Like, why would the coaches put this guy who's coming back from a potentially career-ending injury on one of the top wide receivers in the NFL on an island?
Yeah.
It's like that.
I get that he was on him, but I mean, you had drafted.
But the island part is like, why? Like, I get if you like, I understand having faith in your guys, but like, it just didn't make sense. And there was like no adjustment.
No.
On the defensive side of the ball.
The adjustment was to bench Jackson and put in Michael Davis, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think it was actually Jasir Taylor that they put in. But, that just didn't make any sense to me. And the whole secondary, because we're talking about the secondary, I just thought looked flat. Derwin James, I was surprised that he didn't look fantastic either this game. But how much of this do you think is the defense itself, the players, and how much of this do you think is the play calling and the defensive scheme of Staley?
I find it very, now granted, we talked earlier about the fact that many of these, if not all of these players, didn't play much of it at all in the preseason games, so they're coming in fairly cold from a snaps perspective. Setting that aside, it's not for lack of talent. You have tons of talent. Jackson is a talented corner. Yeah. Michael Davis is a talented corner. Asante is a talented corner. You have the talent. Mm-hmm. It's not the talent. It's the scheme. It's like, and what's most frustrating to me is this coach came up with a brilliant plan last year with half the talent he had in the field this week. Yeah. They're all, bench players that came in, stepped in, and played a fantastic game against the Dolphins last year. Yeah. So it's just like he knows what to do. He just didn't do it. He was just like stubborn about his scheme and like, no, I want to do this man thing all day long. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to force our guys to play this man scheme against
Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Yeah, two of the fastest wide receivers, and they tore them up.
Yeah. It didn't make any sense at all. And I have some stats here from the defense. So Alohi Gilman led the team in tackles, which is weird to me because
he's smart. I mean, the good...
yeah, but like that's telling me, right, that the running game was bad. Because if people are getting to Alohi Gilman, run defense, the run defense was bad because if people are getting past our linebackers to Alohi Gilman,
that's bad.
That's not good.
Well, and that's evidenced by I think their average yards was like 8 yards a carry or something crazy like that.
Yeah, obviously, like a big point of emphasis and like not a big point of emphasis, a big area of disappointment was the lack of pass defense. But I think kind of what went under the radar a little bit is how bad we looked in the run defense too.
Yeah.
Like they didn't run a lot, but when they did run, they were running right through us. And that was a problem we expected to be fixed with the addition of Eric Kendricks. And as I was reading stats here, Eric Kendricks is the second on the team, second leader in terms of tackles with 7. So Alohi Gilman had 11. So he was Alohi Gilman, Eric Kendricks at 7, Derwin James at 6, Michael Davis at 6, JT Woods at 4, and then Kenneth Murray at 3, and then so on and so on.
So much for the ascendance of
Kenneth Murray.
Yeah.
People were really pissed about Kenneth Murray. All this hype in the offseason about how much better Kenneth Murray's going to be, and he just looked...
As soon as Dayon is ready to step in there. Dayon, right?
Yeah, Dayon Henley.
Yeah, so he looked really good in the preseason, so hopefully he'll be the future. But, yeah, I just think... and it has washdown effects, too, right? Like, I was super pissed about Joey Bosa and Khalil not having much of a game, and Morgan Fox not having much of a game. They had 0 tackles and a handful of pressures. But you have a quarterback and an offensive scheme that is all about getting the ball out fast. Mm-hmm. And, the recipe for that to allow those guys to get home on the defensive line is to have the guys covered at the top. And if they're not covered, and Tua is getting the ball out in like crazy time with great accuracy, and he's able to move in the pocket. It's all about scheme for me. It's you have all the talent in the world, and it's just like, it's amazing to me that coaches do this kind of stuff. It just makes no sense. Yeah.
And like you said, I think really disappointing this week was the play of Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. You do have to credit Miami's scheme. They were getting the ball very fast and very efficiently with Tua, very accurately.
They'd hope with without their starting left tackle.
I mean, this was a banged up Miami offensive line. No Teron Armstead, who's like an all-pro.
Yeah.
And, just expect so much more from those two. And it was a just extremely disappointing performance.
Yeah, all the way around.
Yeah. But one of the bright spots for me personally on defense, if you can even find one, is the play of Tuli Pelotu.
Yeah.
He had a tackle for loss, and he looked pretty good to me. I think I was pleasantly surprised to see him rotated in, and when he was in, I thought he looked pretty good. So that's a little bit of a bright spot there, but ultimately it's pretty dim for the defense here.
The other thing I took away from this week, as we were talking about earlier, is I do think there were a number of teams that suffered first week sort of rust. And we are far too talented a defense to play at this level beyond this. So I not to get ahead of ourselves, but I fully expect next week that the defense will, really want to prove a point.
Yeah. Players that I expect to bounce back specifically are Derwin James, Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa. I expect Eric Kendricks to have a big bounce back week too. I was very excited for the addition of Eric Kendricks. He looked a little slow this week, I think, hoping that's just some rust. But he did come in second on our defense with tackles this week. But
I just hope that, one of the things I do like about Coach Staley is he keeps guys on a fairly short leash. Yeah. So my hope is they keep Kenneth Murray on a really short leash, and if he continues to play poorly, that they do give, assuming he's healthy, they give Dayon an opportunity to step in, and because I think those two as linebackers could be, they're two hard-hitting, instinctive players that could dramatically improve our linebacking play.
Yeah. And in the secondary, Jasir Taylor didn't look terrible. He came in and had that big tackle for loss, I think. But, I expect J.C. Jackson, everybody's all upset and up in arms about J.C. Jackson.
He's fine.
I think he's fine. I expect J.C. Jackson to get better as we go along. I mean, he just had a huge injury.
Yeah.
And people are all upset at his play, but, I think it was the coaching putting him in a bad position more than anything.
Yeah.
Like,
You put him on an island with the fastest. He's
in his first week back. He didn't play last year.
Yeah.
What were they thinking? Like,
Makes no
I'm
sense
not
to me.
worried about J.C. Jackson going forward. As long as
I
they
actually am
use him
excited
correctly.
about I think our corner depth is crazy good.
Yeah.
So if we're sensible about our strategy going into these games, we can hold good wide receiving cores to very low numbers and make quarterbacks hold on to the ball until Joey and Khalil and Morgan crush them.
Yeah.
That will happen this season. I'm assuming we can remain healthy. This will happen.
Yeah.
And hopefully this is chalk it up to a learning lesson, mostly for Coach Staley, that he needs to be less obstinate when it comes to his strategy for these games. It's just it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And he's shown an ability to do that in the past, right?
Yeah.
He pivots, and like the Dolphins game last year, he didn't have the players, so he put a game plan together that worked really well.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's part of why this one was so disappointing.
Yes, exactly.
But I think we should move to coaching now and talk a little bit about coaching, which kind of bled into defense a little bit. No, it's okay. Obviously the big one is Coach Staley, but I think we should just start with Kellen Moore because there's not much to talk about, I don't think. I mean, I think we looked good. Yeah. I think, obviously there was clearly an emphasis on getting the run game going this week, and that happened. We saw a unit that was completely in sync, an offensive line unit that was in sync
for the most
with
part.
with the running backs. And you saw Austin Eckler, who I hope is okay, by the way. He was hurt.
He's got an ankle injury.
Yeah. Is he going to be out? Do you know?
Don't know yet.
Well, I hope he's going to be okay, but you got Austin Eckler and Josh Kelly firing on all cylinders, over 200 yards rushing between the two of them. I mean, this is something as Chargers fans we have not seen in quite a while.
Time. LT days, I think.
LT days.
But it's one of the things that excites me about it is not just the running game for the sake of it. For me, what's exciting about the running game is if we can run in the interior and our offensive line can manhandle most D lines, it sets up the other stuff. It sets up these screens and the long balls and the things. And our wide receiver core is incredibly talented. And, our quarterback is incredibly talented and able to find receivers, find matchups in the backfield that will allow us to take those big shots. And I'm all for smart offense where Kellen Moore seems really smart about taking what the defense gives them, and that's what this week was about. And they got 34 points off that. It was, you're gonna just try to shut down our passing game, no problem. We'll run it. Run it in your face all day long and get 34 points out of it. And again, if your defense is playing decent, you're going to win most of those games.
Yeah, exactly. I think Kellen Moore had a great first game as Chargers OC.
Yep.
I think, we may not have seen the deep balls that we wanted to see. Excuse me. But I think those will come as the season goes along. And very much like we talked about how, certain teams and players were rusty probably this week, I think you could say the same for the coach. Kellen Moore, like maybe his play calling is a little rusty and he's kind of getting used to the new players on the Chargers and the system and everything, running it how he wants it to be ran. And, I think you can kind of attribute that to the last couple of plays that were not great. to that. Maybe he's just getting back into the rhythm of play calling and kind of getting used to the players and the personnel and everything. So I don't expect them to make mistakes like they. If there's something I learned from watching Kellen Moore in Dallas is he doesn't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
So if there's anything I expect going forward is that he won't make those mistakes he made in the last minute of the game again.
Yeah, and I think the other thing he's shown a willingness to again be flexible in game and give take what defenses are willing to give him, which is a smart approach, especially when you're able to run the ball the way that our guys were able to run the ball.
Yeah, in our run in the past, we've had the last couple of years, particularly, we've had a lot of trouble in the red zone, and I don't think that was a huge problem today. Or not today, excuse me,
Sunday.
last weekend
Yeah.
In that game. I don't think we had a lot of problems in the red zone. We seem to be executing very well in the red zone, going to Donald Parham for one of those touchdowns, obviously, and Jay Herb taking it himself for one of those as well. So, I think he's got a list of, red zone plays that are effective, and I'm excited to see our
and
red
also
zone
I think
offense go forward.
Justin generally makes really good decisions, and it seems from what we're hearing in the offseason that Justin is really comfortable with the coach's playbook. He's really at the point in his career where he understands defenses on a much higher level.
And they're letting him rip, right?
Yeah,
They're letting him
go for it. You see something, go for it. Yeah,
exactly. So super excited for Kellen Moore. Super excited to see how he does going forward. But to me, this offense looked different.
Yeah,
I'll just say that
for sure.
In an exciting way. We're really looking forward to next week. So now we can go on to Staley, the big one. So obviously, like we talked about, defensive scheme kind of flabbergasted. Don't understand how you can have such an amazing defensive scheme against the Dolphins last year. Granted, it is a different team, but same players, right? You still got Tyreek Hill, you still got Jalen Waddle, you still got Tua. Those are it's the same. They're the same three threats.
And I get that. The reason Coach had the strategy he did last year is because most of his premier players were hurt, so he was trying to work with what he had and be pragmatic about it, and he was trying to work his scheme that is, more one-on-one and really showcase his premier talent. Because he's nothing if not a player's coach, right? He loves his players. He believes in his players. And I get that. But it's like when you see after a quarter of play or whatever, man coverage just ain't working. Yeah. You got to shift.
Yeah, the lack of adjustment is very concerning.
Yeah.
And, hopefully that changes going forward. I mean, watching the defense last year, adjustment seemed to be something that Staley was doing. He seemed to be adjusting at certain points in the season effectively, but we just did not see that this game. And,
sorry to interrupt, but one of the things I think Staley's really good at in-season changes. I don't think he's good at in-game changes. Like making halftime shifts like that. Like, okay, man's not working. Let's shift to more zone. Let's keep everything in front of us and not let Tyreek, continue to burn us like this. I don't know that I haven't seen him be too fantastic at that. He tends to have a plan and stick to it if it works or doesn't work.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's not good. That's not something you want to see from your defense.
I mean, I do appreciate the fact that he, within the season, will make sensible changes and come up with some interesting, game plans. But I think he, as a young coach, really needs to work on his in-game changes.
Yeah, I agree, and that's probably going to be a huge difference maker as to whether or not he gets fired this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's put a finer point on it. He's responsible for the defense. He's known as a defensive coach.
Yeah.
He proved this week he was grossly outcoached by yet another
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah.
So he needs, if he wants to play ball with the big boys, he needs to step up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the defensive guru needs to prove that he's a defensive guru, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't give up 36 points in a game.
Yep.
That's just not acceptable.
No. And I mean, given last year's performance, his D was, not good. It was really bad in the run defense.
Yeah.
It was in the bottom of the league. And so we need to see drastic improvement. I'm not saying he needs to be like a top 5 D.
Yeah.
But I need to see much better play. There is no excuse based on talent and his track record why we don't have, a top half of the NFL in defense.
Yeah. I understand the wanting to play man more, because that was kind of Staley's whole thing, I think, coming in as the Chargers coach.
That's what I said.
Wanting to play a lot of man.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
If it ain't working,
not against
you gotta
Tyreek Hill.
change.
Like, I understand. You got to know when is the appropriate time to play man.
Sure.
And against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle is not the appropriate time to play man. Because quite frankly, no matter how fast you are, Mike Davis is the fastest guy on the defense.
Yep.
He still can't
Legit
keep
4-3 guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
He still cannot keep up with Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
So you play zone. That's what you do. Because you can't play man against those guys, or they'll do what they did to us this week.
Yeah.
Or what just Tyreek did to us this week, which is
So hopefully we'll
touchdowns.
see. I mean, this is a unique situation. Not all teams. This is perhaps one of the fastest wide receiving cores, if not the fastest wide receiving
It is
core
the fastest
in
wide
the
receiver.
NFL.
It is.
So I mean, this is a bit of an outlier. So I certainly, not to get ahead of ourselves again, but I certainly expect this week to be better.
Yeah, I expect pretty much the whole defense to bounce back, hopefully, this week in a big way. And, so I think let's start looking forward to the Titans game and talk about that a little bit. So, like I said, I expect the defense to bounce back in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
This is an offense in the Titans that just lost to the Saints. This is an offense that has a quarterback that seems to be struggling already this season. Ryan Tannehill for the Titans had a horrible game last week. So he threw for 16 for 34, 198 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
And he was sacked 3 times, I think.
So he's hanging on to the ball.
Yeah, well, I think the offensive line for the Titans just isn't very good. So, as we were just talking about, Joey and Khalil, they should be good.
Yeah.
If they're not good this upcoming game,
problem.
there's a problem.
Yeah.
This is the perfect bounce back game against a subpar O-line coming up. So I would wait until seeing this next game to hit the panic button on Joey and Khalil for sure. I think that they're going to come back and they're going to light up the backfield of the Titans. Obviously, the biggest threat on the Titans are Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins, who didn't practice today.
D-Hop didn't?
D-Hop did not practice today, so his status is kind of up in the air. But this is going to be a great test as well for the run defense, which I mentioned earlier.
I was going to ask you about this because it's our weakness and their strength, and while their offensive line is not fabulous, Henry is a
he doesn't need an offensive lineman because he's an offensive lineman himself.
So is this a game where you think Kendricks is going to
Eric Kendricks?
Yeah, is he going to have his sort of game? I mean, this is really a game where he should really step up in the run game and just.
I hope so. I hope
because he's known as sort of a very physical D-back.
Yeah, I think this is a game where the whole defense should shine.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, you have the secondary who they don't have many receivers outside of D Hop and Traylon Burks, and Tannehill, quite frankly, is not throwing the ball at his best. So this should be a game where the secondary bounces back theoretically, and where the defensive line bounces back as well and lights up their offensive line. I mean, this is the perfect, comeback game, bounce back game
on
for our defense on papers. Yeah. So there's really no excuse this week for.
So if you were to pick one player in the defense that really, does a 180 this week, what player is that you think is going to?
Well, are you asking me what player I think will come back or what player should come back? Because those are two different things.
Oh, give me both.
Okay, the player that should bounce back is Joey Bosa.
Yes.
Because he did not look good last week, and there's high expectations for him, and he should definitely kind of earn his pay there this week because last year obviously, and even last game, some stupid mistakes. He got flagged for like first play of the game or something.
Personal foul or whatever.
Yeah, he got a personal foul, and also I think he got an offsides like the first play of the game. Yeah. So, Joey Bosa is a player I'm looking forward to seeing bounce back because I'm kind of worried, quite frankly, about him. A player that will bounce back, or that we were talking about should and probably will.
Right.
The player that probably will bounce back the most is Derwin James.
Yeah.
Derwin James, I think next week is going to be all over Tennessee in their backfield, as well as in the secondary. I think he could have like a sack and an interception or something like that. Excuse me. I expect him to be flying all over the field, especially if D Hop isn't playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like I was saying, the whole defense really. This is the opportunity for them to bounce back in a big way and kind of get in rhythm here.
What about the offense?
The offense, Vrabel always kind of has like a decent defense regardless of who's playing on their defense. I expect their defense to be a tough test, but this I don't think they're going to be anything crazy in terms of resisting the onslaught of Justin Herbert and Kellen Moore's offense. So, maybe the run game isn't as good this week, but I expect the passing game to light it up. I expect all of our, fantastic receiving core, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, even Quentin Johnston, Darius Davis, Gerald Everett. I expect all these guys to have a big bounce back game. And I expect them to be heavily involved in the offense next week. If for some reason Austin Eckler is not able to play this game, I expect that Josh Kelly will have a decent game himself, if not a good game. And I think this is a good test for the offense, just like last week was. But, ultimately I think our offense is in a perfect place to succeed. They have all the weapons they need. Mm-hmm. They have a good offensive line.
What from a defensive perspective, what is their weakness, if you will? I mean,
probably their secondary.
Yeah. So you think that's just going to lead to more passing, more.
Yeah, because they have a pretty good defensive line with Simmons there, who's a great young defensive tackle. So their defensive line is pretty effective. Their linebackers are pretty effective. What we would be looking to take advantage of, I would think, would be their secondary. So like I said, I expect the wide receiving core to kind of go crazy, and Gerald Everett as well to kind of bounce back. So yeah, that's what I expect out of this game, but.
In terms of the running backs for the Chargers, if Eckler is not able to go, do you expect them to use Dotson or to use Spiller?
I expect them to use Spiller, and I expect them to be rotating in and out Josh Kelly and Isaiah Spiller. But, you know, I would be excited to see Spiller play, but I think Josh Kelly has definitely proven himself to be the more explosive, dynamic running back of those two. You know, Josh Kelly last week, obviously for 16 carries, 91 yards, really effective in the run game and very explosive. So, you know, I expect Josh Kelly to obviously have the biggest impact, but it would be nice to see Isaiah Spiller get in there and have some effective runs for all of those of us who have had faith in him, drafting him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, you know, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully Austin Eckler is able to go. But I expect the passing offense to have a bigger role in this game plan.
It'll be exciting.
Yeah, very exciting.
So what do you think about final score of the game on Sunday?
You know, my prediction,
Is your crystal ball foggy?
it is foggy. Mostly
It's gonna
because
be
of the defense.
high scoring, or you think it'll be a low scoring defensive?
So my hope would be that this would be a blowout because the Titans are nowhere near on the level of the Chargers as of right now. If I had to guess, I would hope the Chargers win like 31-10, something like that.
That'd be lovely.
Maybe that's a little optimistic, but, you know, maybe something like 24-10, 28-10, 27-10, something like that. 27-10. I'll go with 27-10.
Okay.
I think that's a good game prediction. 27-10, Chargers come out on top. And I think Keenan Allen goes for 100 yards.
Ooh.
Yeah. And maybe, let me think. Maybe a Gerald Everett touchdown.
Really?
Yeah. Keenan Allen over 100 yards, Gerald Everett 1 touchdown. Justin Herbert somewhere in the realm of 300 yards passing.
That sounds like a really exciting game.
Yeah. That's what I expect, honestly. What would you say your prediction is?
I think that's about right. You know, these are two NFL teams, so I'm always super hesitant to call a blowout, you know, because
anything can happen any given Sunday.
They're going to want to be coming back, and after a loss, both teams want to win badly. So, you know, we'll see. But on paper, as you say, I think it's an opportunity for all our team, or all different, you know, offense, defense, and special teams could really have an impact this week. And the one thing I would really like to see is consistency in the run game. Maybe, like you say, not where last week's game was, but consistent run game, regardless who's running back.
Yeah.
And really make a huge step forward in the passing game. And I'd like to see our rookie really step up and really be impactful. I'd love to see what we've been talking about when we drafted him.
Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, that he
run after
catch effect.
Yeah. I hope they can find a way to kind of get him involved this week and have him, you know, run some screens or something where he's getting the ball and just running as fast as he can.
Yeah. I do see an opportunity for, if our D has a big enough game, I think the offense does well. Special teams, you know, it has an impact. But our D, if they really impact the way we'd like them to, I mean, I could see a situation where we get 3 interceptions, and you know, you give Justin more opportunities to touch the ball with the kind of run game we have currently. We're going to be awfully hard to stop.
Yeah, for the defense, in terms of the defense, I expect to see most of the production come in the form of sacks as opposed to interceptions. There very well could be interceptions, but I expect Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack to be in that backfield all day. And if D-Hop does end up playing, I wouldn't be surprised if he got some catches or something like that, just because you know, he's still he may be older, but he's still D-Hop. Yeah. And basically their game plan is going to probably be give Derrick Henry the ball, and if they're not giving Derrick Henry the ball, force it to D-Hop and just throw him the ball as many times as they can.
Yeah, but that's a recipe for interceptions.
Well, We'll see.
That's a Jackson dream.
Yeah. Well, we're certainly very excited
For sure.
for the next game. And, we do sympathize with all our fellow Chargers fans. It was a very hard game to watch this last weekend, and
Defensively, anyway, yes.
Yeah, lots of emotion, lots of hurt feelings, and we feel your pain as Chargers fans, and but
for sure.
Yeah, but there is a lot to look forward to next week, and I think we can attribute a certain amount of this last game to rust and the lack of a preseason for starters. But, we do have high expectations for the team this next game, especially considering for the season. Yeah, and especially next week considering the team they're playing. So we expect bounce backs from all the players on the defense and certain players on offense. We expect them to bounce back and, live up to the hype.
Yep, exactly. So we'll throw it back to you guys. If you would love to hear what you guys think about where your expectations for the Chargers are, what your expectations for the D is this week.
Give us your score predictions as well.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think the score of the game is going to be. Let us know what players you have your eye on to bounce back and really play the way they should have last game.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that's going to do it for our first episode of our new series, Talking Chargers.
Thanks, Liam. This is a great idea. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, very fun.
Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope all of you enjoyed it, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like, you can also check out our other series that we're doing on this channel. It's going to be on this channel called the Father and Son Podcast. It's just talking about everything from entertainment to technology to sports as well. We don't go as in-depth on the Chargers, but we do talk about sports. So,
and it's from the perspective of sort of the generational difference a little bit. So
Yeah, and we're going to keep this going as well, this new series. So very excited to be now officially a part of the Chargers YouTube community.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.